Hello Artsies, this is Mrs. B and today I'll teach you how to paint loose cherry blossoms forming a letter C like this. Before the painting, I sketch a big letter C using a pencil. For the paper, I am using Khadi handmade watercolor paper. It's 320 GSM and 100% cotton. This is very thick paper and it's good to use for loose watercolor painting like this. The size of my paper is 7 inches by 5 inches. For the watercolor paints, I use only 4 colors from my Mungyo professional watercolor pen set. I know you can see sap green there, but I wasn't able to use it. Anyway, the colors I have opera, crimson lake, burnt umber, and yellow. For the brush, I am using Raphael mop brush series 803 in size 3 by 0. You can use any colors that is close into my painting and your favorite brush for this painting. I started painting the main flowers first. I started at the bottom. You can also start at the top, which is more comfortable for you. You can paint the flowers within the lines of the letter C. If you would like to paint the letter border, you can also do that after painting the main elements. I would like to be loose and I went a little out of the line, but I still make sure I am following the guideline of the letter C that I drew earlier. If you're having a hard time drawing the letter by freehand, you can also print the letter and trace it into your paper using a light board or carbon paper. But be sure not to press heavily on your paper if you choose to do it with carbon paper. For the main flower, I used very diluted opera to appear that it's very light pink. I pressed my brush a little heavy going out and went back to the middle of the flower using simple brush strokes. I also added another stroke from the tip of the first stroke going back to the middle of the flower. You can also add a few thin strokes at the sides. It's best if you leave some white spaces in painting the petal so that it won't look like a ball of paint. Most of the cherry blossoms are 5 petal flowers. While the flower is still wet, I added a cream consistency of crimson lake at the middle and let the color flow onto the wet petals. Here you will just let the watercolor do its job. In painting these cherry blossoms, imagine that you are doing a star-shaped flower. Painting petals are the same. We can also add some buds using a pigmented opera and crimson lake. You can also add a little burnt umber to your crimson lake, especially on the stems and some part of the little branches. You can also use sap green for the small stems of the buds or main flowers, but it's still best to look into good quality pictures online like Pixabay before painting these cherry blossoms. I looked into different photos to be more familiar with this flower. I also added some cherry blossom buds with crimson lake using the shape of the tip of my brush. You can insert the buds anywhere that you can have some white spaces and on the areas that can transition the main flowers to the next one. You can also add some cherry blossoms that are facing on the sides using the 3 petals. What I do is I will paint 1 petal first, then I'll let it dry. Once the petal is dry, I will paint 2 petals on the sides. Sometimes I do the side petals first before painting the middle petal. This is where you can see how transparent the watercolors. You should see beautiful overlapping petals. Here I'll show you how to paint the cherry blossom flowers in real time, but I remove the parts when I cleaned my brush. Using the belly of your brush, drag it with one stroke and another one with a small space in between. Then, drag the bead down to the center to remain the center of the flower wet. Then add some thin lines on the sides. Remember to form your petals like a 5-point star. Leaving the bead at the center of the flower will help your dark color like the crimson lake to bleed with each other. Using the crimson lake, add it to the center of the flower and let the watercolor works for you. Remember that it should be wet but not puddling. Then let it dry. Move on to the next cherry blossom that is facing on the side and showing only the three petals. I painted one petal first and then let it dry. I'll go back to it later. Now using crimson lake, I use the tip of my brush to make the bud using 1 to 2 strokes. And then I dip my brush to the burnt umber without cleaning my brush. I didn't wait for the bud to dry. I let the colors bleed with each other. You can also use the color opera to paint some buds. Remember to bring the bead down so they will beautifully blended with each other. When your petals are dry, you can get a creamy consistency of crimson lake, and using the tip of your brush, you can paint thin lines on top of the flower. You can also do this with the flowers facing the side. You can also add the cream consistency of yellow at the end of it with just a small dot. This is the reason a pointy paint brush is useful because you don't need to switch to a smaller brush. Let's go back to the side cherry blossom. It's now dry. Then we can get the opera and then paint the petals on both sides. I like how the petals look when it's dry because you can see the transparency of the colors overlapping with each other. While it is wet, you can add burnt umber below for the stem. Using burnt umber, you can paint the branches with thin wiggly strokes from the bottom going up, and this time I am holding my brush in the middle of the handle for less control. You can add a little crimson lake with it. I'll do the side flower again because I do not like how it looks, but this time it is more pigmented. Then While waiting for it to dry, I will paint some small buds with the left paint I have on my brush. Using the tip of my brush, just press a little. It's up to you if you would like to start from the top going down or vice versa. I'll go back to the side flower again and paint two more petals on the sides. Let's go back to the main painting so you can see how I finished this letter C. I inserted some buds on the sides and also at the beginning of the letter. You can make the buds in different sizes. I also inserted some branches on the white spaces. You may also add more branches, but I decided to focus more on the flower. You can also add more flowers on the letter to look full by letting the first layer to dry and add another layer of the flowers on top with more pigmented pink. I will play relaxing music in the background while I'll show you how I finish this painting, and I hope you'll enjoy watching and learn how to do these cherry blossoms. hope you can find this tutorial helpful, and please leave a thumbs up. If you like what I do, you can support me by buying a digital coffee through my coffee page. You can see the link in the description box below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing for more watercolor and calligraphy tutorials, as well as journaling and art materials review. Till next time, bye!